Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another sparkling edition of the show we call the Inworld Review, where we bring you a few news headlines and various discussion from the metaverse, the sort of immersive spaces online, and particularly from the hypergrid. And it's currently, I do apologize to live listeners who are in the studio here. We have actually come on about 20 minutes late today due to the inverted commas, technical difficulties. They do happen, and they're mostly Microsoft's fault, by the way. But we're not going to go there, are we? It's also April the 25th of the grand old year 2015, and I don't think in the whole year yet I've made a mistake there. So we're coming to you today from our HQ studios on the hypergrid. Here is in fact MetaWorld Broadcasting on the Great Canadian Grid. We kind of like it here. And just some news, actually. We came here all several months ago. And it basically they've been here for a year, low-key, just friends using it. And in the past 2 weeks, they've gone from 4 online regions to something like 170. And that doesn't include they're waiting and won't be online for a couple of days, because of the new servers being initialized or whatever they do with them. So it seems to me that is big growth. I mean, it's slightly exaggerated by the fact that people have been paying about a month and have been waiting for the servers to arrive. But even so, that is, I don't know what that works out, 170 plus 240 starting double A. Yeah, it's like a 3 times growth or something. I'm sure Maria can interpret it better than I can. She's got statistics. Anyway, on to this week's show. Now, I'm Tara is back with us for a little doing a test run for stream with us today. He'll be with us in Second Life next week to do the same thing, and hopefully we'll be joining the camera team when we've done the tests, and I'm quite happy it's all go to go, so to speak. But testing it today, next week, and hopefully a chance to take up the week after, which is going to be another interesting show here with Krista Lopez and Zaremba. Right. So that's we're on this week's show and this week's news. Now, as well as Tara, of course, I'm also joined by Maria Collins. So welcome, Maria.
Hi, Mel. Great to be here.
And I didn't actually welcome Tara, so welcome, Tara. Just get the voice going. She's probably muted. But yes,
yes, of course, I was muted. So hello, everybody.
Welcome back, even though you've been here invisibly. And I forget how long it is now. It must be 3 months or longer since we moved our headquarters here to Hypergrid and had our first show here. But one of our guests on our first show from here was none other than a returning guest who's with us today, and that's Nara Malone from Snook. And so welcome, Nara.
Hi, Mel. Thanks for having me.
Last time you were here, we were invaded by NPCs, most of whom are still lurking with your name on them. They've become residents. But we're here. We'll be some news about NPCs and various stuff as we go along later. So I've got quite a full agenda of discussion items when we got the news out of the way. So, I actually have my Twitter feed open, but I think what I'm going to do is hand the mic over to Tara, who's going with her various takes on the week and stuff, and then she can sort of relax a bit and get on with the camera work. So over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, that's not too bad because I can kind of zoom in on myself here and forget about the camera for a minute while I get my notes up. Yeah. It's always fun when the technology fights back when you're trying to start a show on time. Various things. The gremlins seem to sometimes have their way. And to add to the fun, if you hear a cat in the background or in the foreground, that's because I have a cat who is really wanting me to embed a USB port in his tail and a keyboard in his side so that he can be a cat keyboard because he likes to position himself just like he
That,
was a
that,
keyboard.
that cat of yours does seem to be getting rather needy recently, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really has. Yeah, he's been up here quite a bit, and he just showed up just as we were starting the show. Anyhow, well, there's a few items I have from the world of Second Life today. There've been several items come up in the this week in the Eat Your Vegetables segment, which is the segment where I talk about the geekier side of Second Life and information from Linden Lab that may have come out or that sort of stuff. During the third-party developer meeting yesterday, Friday, Oz Linden put out a request for assistance from members of the Second Life Linux community in order to ensure that the Linux version of Second Life Viewer continues to be developed. Basically, there's yes, given the extremely low number of users running the Linux flavor of the viewer, and because the lab wishes to focus on some, quote, really cool things, we'll wait and see what those are, for Second Life, no details on what those are, a decision has been made to remove Linux from any major focus of the lab's attention. Therefore, the lab is looking to the third-party viewer community and open source to help ensure that the Linux version of the viewer is maintained and moves forward. So if you are a Linux developer and are around Second Life or are willing to be and contribute, they need your help. And also this week, the lab announced that the new viewer managed marketplace capabilities are officially in open beta testing in the main grid. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what this project is, this is enabling merchants to add items to their marketplace stores directly from the viewer, rather than having to go out to the web and wade through the onerous steps in the web interface in the marketplace. It promises to improve things considerably for merchants as far as getting their stuff into the marketplace, into marketplace listings. They anticipate the beta round will last about a month. Once the beta has concluded, next steps in the process will be a release of the viewer maintained, is that it? Viewer managed marketplace. There we go. VMM to all merchants. A period of a month to allow merchants who wish to manually migrate their listings to the VMM system to do so, which will be followed by an automated migration of direct delivery listings, i.e. that's Magic Box listings. Magic Box listings will need to be manually migrated, and once the migration process is deemed complete, X Street and, yes, Cat, knock things on the floor, thank you very much, X Street and Magic Boxes will be shut down. So I think this has sounded to me like a significant improvement for merchants using the marketplace. There apparently are some tweaks that merchants will still have to go do in the marketplace if they want to make edits and some sorts of edits. But anyway, that is clearly moving along rather nicely. And the third item, and this is one that's definitely one of these under the hood items, the lab updated the de facto official viewer to what was formerly the Tools Update Release Candidate Viewer. And what this particular one does is it's a change in the tools used to build the viewer. Third-party viewers is the opportunity to work with a more common set of viewer building tools due to the removal of some licensing issues. So it's a plus for third-party viewer developers. And there's a couple little things to be aware of. Two important aspects of the update to the official viewer. The Windows version of this viewer will not install on Windows XP systems, regardless of the service packs also installed. So if you're still running Windows XP, you're going to have to use a viewer other than the current downloadable Linden Lab viewer. That's important to know. And if you're on a Mac, you have to be running something at or above version 10.7, which is Snow Leopard. Anyway, yeah, currently Macs are up to Yosemite is
a modern version anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Yosemite is 10.10, so 10.7 is like Snow Leopard. So it's a ways back there. It's probably probably contemporary with XP. Anyway, so if you're running either of those, if you're below 10.7 on a Mac or XP or below on Windows, you have just gotten cut off at the pass for the official viewer. Okay, and the lab notice, this is not a deliberate attempt to block XP users or those on older versions of the Mac OS. It's purely the result of the lab using up-to-date tools for building the viewer, and which will yield positive benefits elsewhere. So just to be aware of that. And a couple of events. Fantasy Fair, which is one of the big Relay for Life supporting events, opened on the 23rd, which was today, 2 days ago, yes. Runs through May 3rd. Definitely one of those that it's great fun to go wander around and just look at the build, and it's even better if you spend a few lindens. And two things that have caught my attention on this round of activities going on. There's what sounds like a really good hunt, which includes some puzzle solving. So it's not just find stuff. It sounds like it's a fairly involved little hunt.
I believe.
And the second is they are.
I believe Sapphire Widdershins, is actually an entire story that Sapphire Widdershins wrote in the spirit of the measurement. So it's a hunt and story, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was my impression from skimming it, that there's a story involved, because you have to locate certain players and ask them questions or pick up things and then do other things. So anyway, it sounds like real fun if you enjoy hunts at all. And the second thing is they're doing their second contest, photography contest, the Fantasy Fair Dream of a Lifetime photography contest to create the Fantasy Fair 2016 calendar. This year they are now selling it. It's an RL Sim calendar. You can have a hard copy dead tree version that they are currently selling, and that this year's round is open now as far as pictures are concerned. And deadline is May 6th. And for details, fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com, which will also get you plugged in with the hunt and the schedule of lots of performers. So that's all going on right now. And the second thing that came up this week in the line of events, the SL12B birthday party. 12th anniversary website has opened on Thursday, and the celebrations will run from Sunday, June 21st through Sunday, June 28th. And they are currently taking exhibitor applications through May 13th is when the applications close. So this is now the time. The theme this year is What Dreams May Come. And their brief description, unlike our physical world, now this is of course subject to a certain feline who seems to think his tail belongs right in front of what I'm trying to read. Come on, Livingston.
It's that Winston is he again?
Yeah, it really is. It is his tail, yes. Okay. Unlike our physical world, everything we see in Second Life was born out of the stuff of dreams. For some, these dreams are what they aspire to, while others seek to recreate that which is unattainable in their lives. Anyway, the closing line is: we want to see your dreams. What do you imagine for the future? What are your aspirations, or what is your own personal flight of fancy? So there you go. That's something to get you started thinking about what you want to do for this year's SL12B. And I think I'm going to have to call that. That's everything on my list anyway, and I'm going to have to call that a wrap and pay attention to the cat.
Yeah, but don't forget the camera. But yes, Livingston, go away. Stop, mummy. Right. Well, I have to thank you very much, Tara. Yes, I have to say, I wonder if there's a hidden message to Linden Labs in the birthday celebration, into the future and stuff. Make what they want the future to be known, as opposed to what the company is costing for them. Anyway, and also a note on the Fantasy Fair. That is what the of course, is a huge, unavoidable charity drive all year round in Second Life. But I must say, is one of the really things that really attracts me to that. Amazing stuff. It's very commercialized, sadly, with a lot of shopping interspersed with the fancy bill. It's always a sight to be seen, and I always think it's rather a shame that it only lasts for 10 days. It's so popular, and people are cramming in over 10 days. It tends to get a bit laggy, and it's a shame that it's not a month-long thing or something, so people can see what I really want, more leisurely pace. But I guess that is life, or rather, that is Second Life. Right. So I'm for more Second Life feeds, of specific destinations. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/malburns_right, Second Life avatar name. But I'm just going to quickly round up my other Twitter feed. My main one, twitter.com/malburns. A long page, but since the majority of them go to Hypergrid Business or more to the point Hyperica, I'm going to leave them to Maria, and I'll just prompt any. So, just to sum up, starting 6 days ago, which makes sense when our last show finished, I retweeted a few tweets from a Twitter called Roblem VR. That's ROBLM space VR capitals. Oh, sorry, his username doesn't have the space, but his actual name does. One of the pieces he broke was a virtual interactive into primetime television in 2016. And there actually is quite a few people. It does give some details. I'm not exactly clear as they're going about it, but the idea seems to be that they're going to inhabit a virtual world of something that you'll better interact via television, but is otherwise a kind of drama that just takes place in the virtual world. But I may have got that all wrong. I mean, when you're dealing with media companies who maybe don't understand it the way I do, they may actually be doing something else entirely. But it's citing news and obviously indicative of the current VR hardware fad. Maria will mention this, of course, I'm sure, but one of her early headlines will be OS Grid losing an entire month of new content. So not sure I want it. I'm sure we will. Journey Metaverse. Journey to the Metaverse, but the blog name is Journey Metaverse, all one word, at WordPress.com. Has a piece on "Are you missing assets" on OS Grid, which of course links to the previous news there. Virtual world and runs its own tech company, and it's been hijacked by real life considerations, I guess. His name is Ian Hughes, Predator. He was known as in Second Life. And he had a nice post at his main site during the week, feeding edge, as in animals feeding, and then cutting edge, all one word, feeding edge. Okay. And it was really a summary piece. Over 15 years experience in virtual, 30 plus in tech. What now? And of course, he's talking about himself, but he's very interesting. Fair's fair. Let him talk about himself because he's interesting. Right, more Hyperica, more happiness, blah, blah, blah. I'm scrolling up, coming up to date. Maria herself actually tweeted, just a reminder, that she's working on improving the Hyperica events. So she was appealing on that. So no doubt she'll mention that when she comes up. VR again posted a post on sensory stories, showcases immersive storytelling. And I'm hoping we'll be talking a bit about storytelling in another sense as we go on. Yet another grid called R Grid is back online with a shiny new database cluster, apparently, and logins are in. Right. The latest version of, the latest edition of the Virtual Education Journal was out this week. Again, you have my Twitter feed because I can't actually see the visible link here. This is one of those sort of flip PDF files that you can find at issue.com and places like that. You download it as a PDF, or you can view it on screen by flipping the pages like you would a magazine. A good journalist too, if somewhat academic. Right. Oh yes. I can't about this either. I've got a terrible memory sometimes. Mini's augmented vision concept. I don't know where it says Mini the car people. I forget actually. But anyway, augmented vision concept puts navigation safely into your glasses. I think this is more reality than virtual reality, but all these things connect one way or the other for us. And I'm scrolling on further up again. I guess we must be getting near to the top now. Virtual existence, gender and the stubborn insistence on embodiment. The title is actually longer than that, but this was a post from Tizzy Canucci at WordPress.com. That's TIZZYCANUCCI WordPress.com. And a meaty read there, if I remember rightly. Chick Aon, the machinima maker artist, who's also a resident here in Canada, in fact, she has a blog at chick@ebby'splace.blogspot.com. So that's chick, CHIC, at, and then Ebby's, EBBES, place. And we know who the Ebby is. She changed the blog when the management's the Second Life changed. But this isn't the Second Life. This particular blog is High Fidelity, The Back Door. And it's got some insights into Philip Rosedale's new project, High Fidelity, which isn't officially part of the project, but who knows? Who knows what's coming? It's certainly got its heart in a similar place. Roblin VR again. I retweeted a piece on how virtual reality will get you into shape. Basically, the different ways that I suppose, like fitness videos, you can tap your Oculus Rift and do physical exercise to get your body in shape, and various other things that where virtual reality will help you engage with activities that will in the world. And of course, we heard the other week about in Inworlds, for example, this program that has an accompanying app that you can get on your iPad called, and it helps you do your physical activity in world, but the app makes you do it at the same time, kind of thing. So efforts to keep us healthy by immersing us in what might otherwise be occupations where we sit in our chair and don't move for 10 hours, and he's looking in the mirror. Never mind. Right. As Proctor tweeted, the 2015 VCARA conference, VCARA, there's a hashtag that goes with that on Twitter. The VCARA conference, I don't know the full is a conference on exploring virtual reality. And I made a mistake here. That actually was 4 days ago, and it was an immediate tweet for something that was actually happening. And they were having a steampunk theme opening, but we missed out. But they might want to look it up in retrospect. Maybe there's videos or something. Other post: what will we do with virtual reality? The endless questions. It's coming. It's coming. And Chinese virtual reality headset includes motion sensors for gaming and, yes, wait for it, sex apps. Gosh, golly, shock, sex apps for virtual reality. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed that the sex industry was on the ads? I certainly never would, he says. Don't believe me. Don't believe it. Also, how virtual reality can help people with autism. Much more sensible application. Respectable application, shall I say. I published a couple of videos in my annex, which is malbonesannex.blogspot.com, which I don't do. They tend to be real world videos I come across of interest. And there was an interview with Chris Milk on how virtual reality can create the ultimate empathy machine. If I recall, that actually was a TED talk, one of these 10-15 minute. And heading up way past all the Hyperica listing. Update pings from the afterlife, or one word, at blogspot.com has a regular roundup of what we did on our safari on Wednesday, and she blogs it on Thursday. Another one I put in the annex, a video feed, Sapient Nitro's Valerie Carl's about virtual reality tech in marketing. I don't know whether you came across this, Maria, but it would seem to be your area. But I don't actually know who Sapient Nitro is. It was, she was interesting, put it that way. And coming on up again. You're flooding my feed, Maria. Right, finally, of the Kokua viewer has been released, KOKUA. It's version 3.7.27.35441. Why they can't just go 1, 2, 3, 4? But you know what these versions are like. And finally, a video again, a third one this week. It's about 3.5 hours long, so you've got to be pretty dedicated to this. But it's all the proceedings from the Silicon Valley virtual reality number 19, which happened about 5 days ago, I believe. So that's my sort of immediate roundup. I have a few other things that have come up, which we'll go into discussion. But for now, I'm going to hand the mic over to Maria for her roundup, all the things I've just skipped over and everything else that's been up all week. So take it away, Maria.
Okay, Mel. Yeah, it's been a very busy week for us here at Hypergood Business. First of all, if you've been planning to email me about the fact that there's problems loading the website, about 100 people already have, so you don't have to. And I've spent the week with tech support trying to figure out what's going on. It loads the mobile site instead of the desktop one. Everything's still there. It's just an inconvenient view, and look, I think they've isolated it to a caching issue. So we're working on that as fast as we can. Okay, so today is the 25th, so we last met on the 18th. So let's look at what's been happening since. The big news, we already mentioned OS Grid. They lost a month of assets. They didn't lose all the assets for that month. Some people are saying that they may have lost like a quarter of the assets that have been coming in. So you mentioned last week that you were having trouble getting content on OS Grid. This could have been the issue instead of the suitcase issue, or could have been the suitcase issue and this issue, or any combination of those things. Another bit of bad news this week is Avanation announced that they lost $126,000 to crooks a couple years ago. And
if you don't mind, Maria, that's something I'd like to bring up in discussion when you finish the news headlines, because it bears on a couple of other things to do with content stuff that I think are worthy of talking about. So do remind me if I seem to be going off track, but I'm quite keen to bring that up as greater discussion.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll come back to it in more detail later, but the bottom line is Avanation's working on it. If your currency balance is 0, they are going to fix it. They're promising no one's lost any money except for them. Okay. So the other big news this week is that we now have $3 regions again in OpenSim, and several folks offering regions around the $5 price mark, and a bunch of variable region sizes. The prices are just amazing right now for regions in OpenSim. Don't feel you have to rush out and stock up, because I don't know if you've heard, but every 18 months the technology kind of doubles in power, or falls in half in price. So expect OpenSim prices to continue to drop. But right now there's some excellent deals out there for really high prim regions at very low cost. So take advantage of that. And we're also starting to see some more differentiation among the hosting providers. So CloudServe, which which when they first launched was kind of known for their low-cost region prices. They're now focusing exclusively on the wholesale market. So if you're a landlord, this is or grid owner, they will sell you a whole bunch of regions all at once with a bunch of management tools that are low cost, and then you can resell them to retail customers. Okay, so let's see what else. You mentioned my destination guide. I've been adding stuff to it all along. It's currently missing an events, the latest events, and it's currently missing some shopping areas, but there's some adult areas that have been added to it. So if you care about that kind of thing, you can go check them out. And let's see. AviWorlds versus AviWorlds. Did I mention that last week?
This is you sort of did. This is one that parts of the conversation I want to come to. Yes, AviWorlds just changes, but I did. Well, I'm not actually going to put any rumors on there, but I did hear things involving them and other grids that I've been thinking about, and I want to address if we can. Yeah.
So it's a funny story because it doesn't really affect anybody. Nobody's hurt by it, so there's two grids fighting over the AviWorlds domain, and it's just funny. And of course, AviWorlds, the first AviWorlds with Alex Pomposelli is back, and it's trying to get back on its feet again. So just when you're looking for AviWorlds, make sure you go to the .us one. That's the big AviWorlds grid, Alex's, instead of the .com one. That's the one that's empty. That's the kind of the sham one that is just basically an annoyance to everybody. Okay, so I had a nice visit with the AltSpace VR folks. They were in Boston, and they showed off their virtual world platform, and this is a meeting platform. So you put an Oculus Rift and you're inside a meeting space. You can watch videos together with other people, watch a football game, or give a business presentation. So it's free right now. It's in beta. They're planning to have a premium model. It's not a customizable environment at all. It's a mesh-based environment. You go in, and it's basically a chat room kind of thing with Inworld media. And they have a fun thing where you can import 3D content from a website, which is cute, but it's not really a full-featured world. But one thing that I really enjoyed in it, which other people can learn from who are designing virtual environments for headsets, is that I spent an hour on this platform without getting sick. And I do get nauseous while wearing the Oculus Rift headset, and I didn't at all get nauseous in this one. And the trick that they used was that you could look around and you can click to teleport. That's it. You couldn't walk or run or any kind of like lateral movement. So the only movements you had were the kind that were duplicated by your physical body, meaning that you're turning around.
Yeah.
And in order to move physically from one location to another, instead of walking there, which is a problem because your avatar's walking, but your physical body's sitting still. Yeah. You just click on the location where you want to go, and it teleports you over. It's kind of like you blink.
You know, I used that in Sim and in Second Life, I guess, quite a lot, because there was a point where they put an elementary view out, didn't they? Which maybe it's still in the interface somewhere, but you could just say to double-click teleport, and you're not teleporting across the region. You're just watching a point that you want to go to and clicking on it, and it takes you there. And I must admit, in some ways, it's more interesting than walking, if you just want to get somewhere.
I have that set up in my Firestorm viewer as the default, where I click on the ground to teleport. And for me, it's just I have to take a lot of pictures. For me, it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
Get my avatar out of the way, instead of just walking through everywhere. I really don't have the patience to walk inside a virtual world. I want to get in, take my pictures, and get out.
Yeah.
Because I'm a busy person. I don't have a lot of time. Anyway.
You've got devil go and build
places to go, things to do.
Yeah, because
So
people
you-
like me go and build builds where you can barely see in front of you in tight corners and you can't click.
Yeah.
All you can do is walk, but I'm naughty.
Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah.
But the point here is that if you're building a meeting environment for business meetings or any kind of meeting that you're going to be using a headset for, try that. If your users are getting sick, replace the walking with click to teleport, and see if that helps. It really helped me a lot. I really appreciated that. I strongly recommend it. Other stuff with Altspace VR, they're still their avatars still had a long way to go. They did have a cute feature where if you had to connect or leap motion, your arm gestures would get duplicated, not the rest of your body. This isn't full-scale motion capture, but just your hands. And for talking, basically we talk with our hands. That's pretty much enough. We don't need the full body motion capture. Hands are enough. If you got the lip movements based on voice and your hands are moving, you're pretty much 99% of the way there for most business meetings.
I think that's all you need. There've been variations of this. You get a login to where a conference is happening. It's one click to sit on the chair, and the moment you sit on the chair, the camera is automatically reset so that you're focused on the speaker. The speaker is set up, as long as the lips are moving and the hands are flapping, or the lips and hands are flapping. You're away. You are very right. That is almost all you need. Even on the show, I see your lips moving, and a bit of hand flapping wouldn't go amiss, but that's all we need.
All right. So I had a couple of stories about cheap land, where to get it, and how to rent it. So because there's this saying, you get what you pay for. But there's other mistakes you could be making too. So I have a list of those things to watch out for. You can still do them, but just be aware of the fact that this could cause you problems later on. Like, for example, does the vendor offer you upgrades if you want a better capacity or performance? Because if they don't, and you do need it later on, you're going to have to move your entire region, which is a pain in the butt. But maybe you're willing to suffer that potential pain in the butt in the future for really cheap land today. So as long as you're aware of the trade-offs, be an educated consumer. We have passed the 2,000 posts milestone here at Hypergood Business. We've been publishing since March 2009. Averaging more than 30 posts a month. That's more than a post a day.
Just gonna say it seems like more than that.
and we've had more than 140 different contributors. So sometimes it feels like I'm the one writing all these articles, but I'm actually not. There's other people doing it as well, and I want to thank them all. You know who you are. And I really appreciate it. Kokua has released a new update. Now, according to my survey of Hypergrid travelers, they're used by around 2% of Hypergrid users. But as one of the Kokua user told me, it works really well with Macintoshes, and they work closely with Restrained Love and the Second Life official viewer, so they're good with getting updates quick. So for some people, that might be a good viewer for them. And finally, I spent this week going through 29 different virtual reality apps for my iPhone. I got a Google Cardboard in the mail. I ordered it on Amazon for like $5 or something. I assembled it out of cardboard, and I found all these cool apps. Some of them cooler than others. Some of them more nausea-inducing than others. And because I have an iPhone, I did the iPhone ones, and there are so many of them. There's some really great ones, some that you can really show to your grandmother or to all your friends, and then they'll go, wow, so this is virtual reality. There's the one that really amazed me was the Insurgent one. That's the promo for the movie that actually puts you inside the movie. And I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So plug your ears for the next 30 seconds if you plan to see the movie and you haven't. But there's a scene in the movie where these wires come at you and they plug into your body, and it's like and they take you into a virtual reality. Well, you see them coming at you in this app, and you go, ah! Even though you know it's not real. So that really creeped me out. So it really had a powerful effect, even though the field of view is narrower in the iPhone because it's not the full-scale Oculus Rift, and the resolution isn't as good. You can actually see the individual pixels. Now, you can't see them on your iPhone when you look at the iPhone straight down, like when you're holding it in your hands.
Yeah.
But when it's in front of your eyes, and the lenses kind of act like as microscopes, expanding this view, you really see the individual pixels, at least on my iPhone 5.
Is your iPhone, what do we call it, Retina displays?
It's an iPhone 5. I don't know.
Yeah, which I think the pixel density, regardless of size of Retina displays, means that wouldn't happen. But worth bearing in mind. I've had that experience with lots of things.
Well, I'm definitely upgrading to iPhone 7 when it comes out, and that's going to be one of the reasons. Yeah. Make sure when you do order a Google Cardboard headset that you get one that fits your phone, because the phones are different sizes, and mine fits my iPhone perfectly. So if my iPhone was any bigger, it wouldn't really fit in there. Or if it was any smaller, it would be rattling around. So do that. And the other thing is it doesn't adjust for, your eye distance or your head size or anything like that. So if you need those kind of adjustments, you might want to pay a little bit extra for a headset that comes with them, that's adjustable. But for like $5 to $10, you can't beat this cardboard thing.
You can't go wrong, can you?
Try it out so you can see what the stuff is out there, and decide whether it's worth it or if you're going to wait for the next generation to come out. I strongly recommend it, and it's a great way to show it off to friends and relatives. If you can't afford $300 for an Oculus Rift, this is a really close second best option. And there are so many apps out there, and it's growing really, really quickly. Now, with the iPhone, the interactivity doesn't really work as it does on the Android devices. So what the app makers do is you have a little focus areas on the screen. You look in a certain direction to do stuff. So, for example, some of the apps have it so you look down at your feet, and there's a circle that says walk or a circle that says stop. You focus in on that circle, and then it starts you moving. Then you look down again to stop. So that's one option of doing it. The other one is, and this is the one I prefer with the teleport style apps, is that there's an arrow hanging in the air or some kind of a symbol hanging in the air. You focus in on that symbol. You look straight at it. There's a little crosshairs or something, so you know where you're looking when you're looking at it. And then you look at it for a couple of seconds, and then it teleports you to that location. So I like that. And I also like the apps where you're sitting down in a cockpit or in something and you're moving around. For example, there was one app, it was too short, that was like Fantastic Voyage, where you went inside somebody's body. And it was really cool because you were inside the ship and there was stuff for you to do. And the graphics were really nice. There were a couple of really nice roller coaster apps that I've linked to that I recommend people try out too. Right. And there's a whole bunch of 360 videos out there, so many. and for all sorts of companies.
Did you by any chance try one called Wee Wee Wo?
No.
It's an old one. It's very elementary, but it's before you were on our team a good few years ago now. But it came out on the iPad, and there was one show where we quit the show, and all the people watching the show on the channel joined us in Wee Wee O if they had an iPad, and we had a little party. It's very simplistic. It's made from photo panoramas and virtual
And it
objects
has
in
a
the
side-
foreground.
And it has a side-by-side view.
Yeah, it's full panorama. So as you turn in full 60 degrees. It's
But does it have a side-by-side view with two images side by side?
No.
Oh no.
No, it's not set up. It's not set up as a 3D as a VR immersion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the thing you can look at magnified in color. Still check in now and again, and it's the thing, despite its simplicity, that I've actually got on the iPad that mimics a social environment.
Yeah, you can't watch those with Google Cardboard. With the Google Cardboard, you really need the split screen views where you have two square pictures side by side.
Okay, fine.
The stereoscopic, basically.
Yeah, the stereoscopic view. And the reason is because there's a separate lens for each eye.
Yeah.
And the video is a little offset on each one, so you actually see it in 3D, like you feel like you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's the same technique as the old 3D glasses, where one filters it one way and the other. Yeah, sure. Yep. Okay.
Now the ones you're talking about, the older style ones, they just show you one picture, and then you can rotate the whole device, but you hold it in front of you at arm's length, and you just look at it. So there's a lot of those out there, and I had to weed those out. I had to go through a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're all market themselves as 3D VR, but they're not actually stereoscopic.
Yeah, I appreciate the difference. I mean, I can't imagine. It's like people watching 3D television, 3D glasses. It's a while, but then it wears off, and the glasses never get used, and then never use them again. Whereas, if something is multifunctional, in other words, if you've got a nice widescreen streaming live video that you can put in some kind of headset, slot it in just so you got a close up. And maybe it responds to tactile movement, like as you move your head in the panorama view. I think there's very much a place for that, and I would call that VR too. Though clearly, it's not processed 3D. It's actually just a way of projecting an environment more intimately.
Now, some of the video players, in particular, have an option to go to full screen view instead of split screen view. So if you don't have a headset, you can still watch the video.
Okay.
And that is nice, and I do recommend that. But actually being in the middle of it, being immersed, is a qualitatively different thing. And for people who want a taste of what virtual reality is going to be like, I mean, this isn't 100%. Obviously, it still needs a lot of work. But if you want a taste of what it's going to be like, what some of the things you could do with it, I've got architectural walkthroughs, museum tours, car test drives on there.
Are you going?
Plus games.
Are you going to publish a post on all these apps you tried out? And
I did. It's the first post on the site right now. It's called 29 Fun VR Apps for the iPhone.
Right. Did I miss that? Okay. Well, we'll look that up. I'll definitely look that up. That wasn't on my list for some reason.
Well, I just published it today, so.
Well, that explains it. I'm way behind today. I've been too busy pre-mangling and checking on guests and news to actually add news today. You've got to be kidding. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's move on.
Can I just interject one comment? Maria, one thing that strikes me about Google Cardboard and what you have just described doing is that unlike Oculus, you're talking about putting together a little piece of cardboard, plunking your iPhone in it, and downloading an app and turning on the app. And with Oculus, of course, you're talking about something that's still a developer kit. And so you're talking about having to plug it in and download software and fiddle and stuff. It's not designed for end users yet.
Right.
It's still got all those extra geeky things going on. So for your garden variety, non-geeky person, what you're describing is a way to give them, to taste the strawberries is, is ideal, is truly ideal, because it doesn't take any geekiness.
Right. And
there's
some sad news on the Oculus front. The rumors from Facebook are we're not going to have a consumer version this year. They're not gearing up to ship the Oculuses yet. So, but there's a new version of the Samsung Gear VR coming out for a different phone, for the Galaxy S6. Previously, it was only available for the Note. So that's a slightly more high-end headset. But again, it's a drop-in headset. It's like a fancier version of Google Cardboard. When you open it up, you drop in the phone, you close it up, and it's the phone that's running everything.
Let's move on because of time.
Okay. I'm done with mine. I'm all done with my stuff.
I figured you are. We'll come back to a bit of discussion on items a bit later, but I want to switch over to our guest this week, Nara. Welcome again, Nara Malone, everybody.
Hello, Mal.
Hi, Nara. Now, I had some specific things to come up with there. Of course, we were talking a bit just before you came on, and one thing you asked me, because I said no, because I haven't actually been over to your sim for a short while, is have I seen the new NPCs? And you were enthusiastic about that. Maybe you want to tell us about that first.
Well, the most exciting thing for me is the new PMAX system that you can put in MLP furniture and convert it. So the one main thing that everyone's interested in is the fact that you reduce furniture from 15 scripts down to 1 script, and it's very easy to animate. But the thing I'm excited about is she included the ability to put NPC cards inside the furniture. So you can have someone sit down and resin NPC beside them. For us, that means we can have our characters join people who visit the grid and interact.
I can make an NPC of Tara, and then even though she's not dinner with me in the house, I can pretend she is by putting it in the dining room animation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great. That's that's a.
I don't know if you went to.
Did you go to the 1001 Nights grid visit with Safari? They had NPCs in some of the furniture there that would come up if you clicked on it.
Yeah, that was a wonderful build. That was very good. I got to actually, but I mean, but not everybody on Safari walks around together and you say, "Oh, I'll meet you in the sauna or something," and then, well, "Where's the sauna?" And an hour later for it. But what I saw, that was great. All the different chambers and. People adopting various poses. I can't remember whether I saw anybody interacting with an NPC, but
well, there was the masseuse thing that seemed to get a lot of traffic. The NPC masseuses.
Yeah. Pathfinder, Lester was having great fun with those. Actually, his self was coming out, interacting with everything he could find. That was great. That is a wonderful build. It's so atmospheric, isn't it? It's very.
It is. You really feel like you're there.
Yeah, there's no distractions. It's just one environment, but totally. So that's what I thought was great. Well, that was new before we move on to other things as well.
Okay, and another new tool is the NPC Reser, and I think that just came out this week. And you can get all of these things at Refuge Grid in the Hedonism region.
Right.
Anya, and I can't say her last name, but you spell it CAOIMHE. And she made all of these new features for us, and they really advance our ability to tell a story with NPCs and have people be able to interact with them.
Or maybe I'll tell you some plans I've got later, which are.
I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Well, you'll have to interview me, sort of. I can't. But I'll tell you a bit later. Okay, now something something that I'd like your feedback on Maria's and everything else. Is something came up in the week. I'm going to. I don't want any grid vested interest really here to discuss it for various reasons. But how did they go? I don't want to mention names. I think it's an actually issue to be concerned. We often end up coming back to the theme of copyright theft or assets and stuff like that. Now, somebody mentioned to me during the week that a certain grid that's fairly newly online managed to come up with 60 regions fully stocked, decorated, built, and everything else, like they've been there forever, almost immediately. Due to a certain group of customers who go with that grid and are actually notorious for copywriting. And a lot of the content actually apparently comes from Second Life, not from Open Grid, which is more remarkable. But all the stuff had been brought up, and it was ownership was under the name of the grid owner, as you do with OAR files. Sort of anything you've got that might have been somebody else's, suddenly turns up, and attribution basically has changed. And this appeared to be a case of a whole grid coming online to try to hijack the hypergrid people by sort of ready-made world with everything in it that they could find. And, we're not going into the detail of that, and also the fact that, Maria, you mentioned the Avanation business, which has come to light, but of course the original theft, I think, when was it, 2011? There are actually aspects of the Avanation thing that go back, and it's been tied up in legality. But I got to thinking, especially as lots of people are bringing up these individual instances, and I have no idea who the trusted parties could be. But, I worry about the future of the hypergrid in the sense that if, well, it's not police, whether it should be somehow, I don't know. But even if there was people in the background, an ethics committee, who were kept a lookout for grids that are doing things that might damage the hypergrid, even though they may seem to be, if you see what I mean. This comes down to piracy, content protection, and basically the grids that sort of pop up with the attitude of sort of, we're the greatest grid of all, to hijack customers and sort of maybe turn themselves into a semi-walled garden like Second Life once they've got the customers. They're not really working in the spirit of the hypergrid. I remarked on this before, that I personally sort of see with hybrid, and Maria was mentioning, cheap prices these days. I mean, you can actually get a region for yourself for the sort of price that you used to pay just to rent a tiny Second Life. Likewise, you can start a whole grid for yourself. And it costs a little more than the cost of renting a region in Second Life. Every stage in this process has gone up a level. The budget for a castle and a little house. I put some on a new sim I got this week, which I'm quite happy about. They're just going to be for our crew to have somewhere to hang out. I'll give them a house. And things they can res or whatever, it's a courtesy thing. I mean, the regions are so cheap. If they really want a region of their own, they can get one for a fraction of the price they rent one house in Second Life. So the scale on which these things are operating is changing anyway. But I spoke, and unfortunately she couldn't come on the show. I'm just actually going to open up my notepad here. I spoke to a woman called Lani. I know as Lani Global, which is her brand name. She on Notice Grid, and she gave me permission to actually mention what we, as it were, and because I was asking about this, and she's on, but I'm quickly scanning down this. She had one very good quote. She's Right. Let me see. Well, the first point is time to time she's noticed small grid operators, you'll notice, come through with tabbies and harvest whatever they can get from OS Grid or wherever she's got her freebie stores. And then they take them into a new grid to quite literally get them started. Now, if that's true, there are whole loads of grids, and everybody's got a duplicate copy of the Linda Kelly method. It's actually boring because you go to check out a grid that's advertising freebies, and there's the same. But this, when actually grid come online, and instead of offering those freebies, they've actually rezzed them to actually set up what's a heavily developed grid. Whereas in fact all they've done is they grabbed OAR files from here, there, and everywhere. Sometimes not free ones, I hasten to add. And I think it's a different ball game. But Lani points out that many people tend to assume that this means everything is in the public domain, and that some of these things, many of them actually have licenses attached to them. And
I want to say about the Lani issue. It's come up before. The problem is caused by the fact that the content is given away for free, and but it's given away free for personal, non-commercial use.
Yeah.
So and this has happened in the past that people have downloaded this. This content, which is free, and uploaded it to closed commercial grids, thinking that they're still using it personally. But now Lani sees the content on this commercial grid and says, no, it's not what I meant. So it's created PR problems for commercial grids in the past, because as far as Lani is concerned, this is commercial use of the content because it improves. Right. Yeah. But that's a different issue, very different issue, from a grid downloading just a mass of stolen content from Second Life all at once. And that issue is best addressed by folks DMCA against the grid. So only legally only the original content creator has the right to do that. But a grid, if it's aware of stolen content, can step in ahead of time and police it as well. And they're liable if they don't. So they need to clean it up.
Absolutely. We've been through this before, basically. I'm actually more thinking along the lines of standards that between people on the hypergrid, especially we know who the honest people are, and the people with the hypergrid per se, and between ourselves we know who people that have ulterior motives are. But going back to what Lani said, she said perms mean nothing in OpenSim, the license is everything. And actually, you can quote me, permissions mean nothing in OpenSim, yet licenses mean everything.
That is technically true, but practically, on many grids, the perms are used as substitute for licenses, and people coming, including on Second Life, so people who come from those grids where the perms are used to indicate license terms, they will automatically be thinking in terms of the perm is equivalent to the license. And on open grids like OS Grid, that is not true, but the OS Grid doesn't have the terms posted. It doesn't make this clear to new residents. So they have to find this out on their own. So for content creators, you can't assume that your customers are aware of this. You really do have to educate your customers, put a notepad or a note card inside every piece of content with big capital letters saying, here's how you're allowed to use it and not.
Right. If while we're talking, and Tara, who are on the cameras, will pan over to the other stage, you'll see that there are actually two big time threads there. I've actually just moved my camera so that it's rest on the first one, close up, which is a copyright notice that is a standard one that Lani provides. As an example, I mean, when you get something like this, you actually, you must win and the license. You can't just assume that because it says take as a freebie that there isn't a permission system attached to it. And her license here, and I'll show you another one in a minute, is actually the copyright is very indicative of what she does. But what I found was fascinating as we got into the talk, she showed me some little tricks that I think are actually quite important. And as well as Maria, of course, Nara, do feel free to interrupt here for some. Basically, I actually realized I have one of those right under our feet. We're actually, this studio we're broadcasting at is at 5,000 meters, whatever it is. And, there's a platform kind of res here with trees and stuff for the studio built. And this is actually one of Lani's products. And sometimes when I've crossed with floor, as I did have earlier today, oddly enough, I actually have to go down and alter the level of the land and things like that. And on the reverse side of the terrain, there is a brand logo for Lani and, a corporate name and logo. And it's clear the ownership. And I was also talking to Lani about invisible watermarking and things. And basically, she was saying to me that basically a savvy creator, right, can actually hide things that identify it. Things like textures within an object, and no amount of downloading them and regarding them in all files and stuff is going to get rid of that, because the chances are the assignment of ownership may change, but the chances are the person is not going to know of these hidden items, or not even going to think to look for them, or make answers if they do think to. So imagine that you've got a lovely build of a stage set flying in the sky, and you've got a lovely backdrop on it, which is a lovely picture. But that image itself contains a watermark, something that's actually visually visible, but is actually there in the pixels. Then, if that ever appears somewhere and it's being used, in other words, it's being used in a way that isn't covered by the license, then she can identify that pretty much immediately, and she can prove. It's not just the takedown notice or anything like that. She can literally prove that that's hers, and its use is in breach of the license that came with the product. And this seems to be a very sensible way for her to go around the fact that she's giving away. She doesn't do anything for money, but the license says you can't use it commercially. It's for you to use. It's not for you to make money out of, or even if that man is like getting customers for your grid because you've got it. So she's obviously, thought out about this, and that copyright notice on the screen at the moment, or a second ago, is an example of something that actually comes with her products. And the other sign offered by license is some she gives to all other creators, and encourages them to actually use. So I don't know about the other cameras. I'm keeping on the screen long enough so you can read them if you're a creator, especially, that is concerned by these things. Sorry, Maria.
I just scanned down underneath the grass here, and I saw her sign. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah. Now, I would recommend that she add like a little statement, like a CC0 or CCNC to that, to attach it to the license terms. Like the CCNC is the Creative Commons non-commercial license, which is CCNC BY, I think is the one she uses, which is Creative Commons non-commercial, and you need to retain the attribution. So just put those letters down there. I've been recommending that creators do this for a long time, to add this to texture pictures. And you want this for two reasons. You want to give a heads up to the legal users how they're allowed to not allowed to use the content, because your legitimate customers are your good customers. You want to keep them happy, and they want to keep you happy. And you want to have the crooks. You have to be able to find the crooks and say, okay, here's what it is. So if you do have one in a hidden place, also have one in a publicly visible place, so the legitimate customers can see it. Because
I think that's the idea of putting the image in all her packages, so people open the pictures immediately. And she was saying, just don't, never allow things like images in the package, or note cards alone. Note cards can be altered, images can be deleted. The whole idea is, and I know this from, Nara Malone, well, it's not so much a thing that authors do. They tend to copyright by sending original manuscripts to sell sealed and things like that. But certainly in the world of images, it's a very, especially in the day of these days of Photoshop, to create some kind of barely visible mask and drop it, burn the image into this mask before you release it. And if it ever comes to the question, you can identify that you can take that mask, lay it on an illegal reproduction, and reveal that it actually was yours all along. They might have blurred bits of it and stuff like that, but they'll never consciously blur the mask. They'll only be modifying it to try and hide things. So, the mask you used in the Photoshop original, for example, is your proof that you never distribute that with the image. It's a mask, it's a layer. You use to flatten images, and you keep this mask layer that effectively hidden, that can identify it as yours. So there are a lot of, a bit of thought, there are a lot of protections, but it's all very devious, actually. But it's devious to a purpose. The whole point of this is that you want to put your mark on something, and so you can prove it is yours without telling anybody that the mark's there, so that they can go and try and get rid of it and take ownership.
Now you
Good
can
idea,
also,
really.
you can also go the opposite. Go ahead.
We have, as authors, we do have a big problem with copyright theft, and that a lot of times we'll send out copies of our books mass to reviewers. And then some of those books that we've sent out, and we've only released them to reviewers at that point, will turn up on these share sites, and they give away our books for free, and we can't do that and still make a living. So maybe including something like that, invisible mark, like you said, inside the book for each person, so you can figure out who's actually releasing your copies. Yeah. That's really a good idea.
I played a dirty trick once, although it never actually got me anywhere. But I used to teach people to use Photoshop, art directors and stuff. But I did it through an agency, and there came a time when they decided they didn't want me to be on staff, this particular agency, but they kept on continuing to use the notes that I, done myself and brought in to hand out to the clients. What and I could identify what was a direct copy of me, inaccuracies, rather than its accuracies. They're only minor things, by the way. I didn't give a document that was going to mislead them. But just little things I would slip in to identify, that those were my exact words, and, were recorded. And no amount of, anybody who actually lifted the text verbatim, fell into the trap. I mean, obviously somebody could sit down with a word processor and retype the thing from scratch and possibly alter a few words as they go and pretend it's an all new work. I mean, but in fact, their purpose was actually just to reuse my material. And so in also using the planted mistakes. And I thought that, but, what can you do? That's really a good trick. And if it doesn't get in the way of the tutorial, it's just minor things, then I think that's fair game. You're just making it safe for yourself.
Right.
The other side. the other side of the equation on all this, though, is as a creator, are you going to spend all your time chasing around looking for people who've stolen your stuff and going after them, or are you going to spend your time creating?
Well,
and
so,
so this is the point I was going to.
But yeah.
So this is the point I was going to make, that Linda Kelly, who's the most famous, recognizable creator in OpenSim right now, distributes all her stuff with a CC0 license. That means no attributions. You don't have to keep her name. You don't have to use it in any way. There's no restrictions on use. You can even resell it or use it commercially. And her content as a result is spread very widely because it's so easy to use. There's no restrictions. People don't have to keep track of, what the license terms are, and her content's become very recognizable, even though she doesn't require attribution. So that's the opposite extreme of that. And so when at hyper good business, for some of my content that I produce, my goal is to get it as far as possible. And so I distribute it under a CC0 license. You don't give up your copyright for this. You still retain your copyright. You're not putting it in public domain. You still have the copyright. You can still sell it if you want to.
Yeah.
But for the people who get it, they can do anything they want with it. But other stuff is copyrighted.
Well, I think it's I think it's like doing this show. It's you don't edit much or anything like that. The idea is to get it up immediately and get it out there. And I want it to be, is it making money out of it, or stopping people using it, or even extracting bits from it if they create it. I just want to get it out there, and I don't want to get it out there because I'm making any money the more I get it out. I just want, we're promoting something that's integral to the future, I think, and it deserves to be, even boring although our talking heads may be, deserves to be sort of as possible. But on the other hand, if we film something for somebody, say, well, I'm sorry, we publish exclusively on our, and we don't allow it to be embedded anywhere. Well, that's their problem, not mine. But I want it to be embeddable, linkable, everything else, because to me, it's out there. And I was talking to Fisher Nightfair, who was on the show, and about art and stuff, and she'll say, well, we have to consider our ways and stuff, but to her, art is public. She doesn't take commissions to place of people or anything that's going to be hidden behind closed doors. She does murals and things in public spaces. Obviously, people pay her to do it, fine. But she is only interested in art that the people. She doesn't want to be involved with what you might call highbrow art that hangs out in galleries and millionaires. Right. So, there's a distinction you make there. And I'm sure there are plenty of artists and authors around to work simultaneously for two markets. Comic book creators, for example, I worked on for when I was younger. They're all tied under contracts, all rights in perpetuity throughout the world, and including the original artwork to the publisher. Whereas now they license those works individually in different regions, depending on whether it's serialized or it's an album edition and stuff like that. So time. But a lot of those creators will come to me and they bring me something that they just wanted seen because they were doing their own thing and they were proud of it. And so they had a budget and they gave me no rights except the rights to put it in, first rights or second rights to put it in the magazine. They considered it a different avenue to the work they were doing. It wasn't the job avenue, which relied on giving away everything to get a miserable wage. It was a true creative avenue where they give it away almost because they were, represented them, the essence of them.
Yes. So I write for a living, like Nara here, and all my stuff is distributed in like you mentioned, different options in three different ways. My day job is the publisher takes all rights to the work, but they pay me quite a bit of money for that privilege. So it's custom writing for big magazines. And I get paid a significant amount of money for that. For hyper good business, it's copyrighted. It's a little bit of money that comes into advertising. And I do monitor for infringements and file DMCA notices. And I prefer that people who want to link to my articles just link to them instead of copying the whole thing.
Yes.
Maybe copy the first paragraph or the sentence and link back to the site for the rest of it. And then some stuff I just give away because it's promotional material, it's free books, it's scripts, it's builds. And so you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have different distribution models, different licensing models for different types of content.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
give away old content under a CC0 license. You can sell your newest, latest stuff on a closed commercial grid. You can the stuff that's in the middle range, like last season's content. Maybe you can sell on a hypergrid through Kitely Market. So you can have different options, and you can use them all. It's perfectly fine. You don't have to pick one or the other. It doesn't make you a hypocrite. You can do whatever you want to your content, whatever works for your particular audience.
Well, on this grid, for example, if you create something and mark it down for sale, even if it's for sale for nothing, you can actually only buy it because it's like the Podex thing. Whereas if you mark something free to take a copy, people can take it in their suitcase and travel with it. But there is also another model, and that is you can have the same product in different ways. You can market a house that stays on the grid you're selling it on. Or you can market a house that you can take to any grid to res, but you only have one copy. In other words, there's no copy. You can't transfer it, you buy it. Or you can have one that you can make multiple copies and use of. What you do is you will probably charge a different appropriate price, for what you're getting. If somebody's building a housing estate and they want multiple copies of the same house, they will probably pay more. They might get, 10 houses for the price of 6 or something, but you get the idea, You pitch it all differently, you mark up the prices differently. Even freebies could be free for personal use. It is fair, but somebody that everybody wants to use, and like grid owners want to use it as part of it, then if it contravenes the personal license, you could charge them a premium because they are using it as part of a build, a sort of semi-commercial operation, a bit like the way libraries work in publishing. Again, Nara will probably know this. Well, in the UK anyway. Premium price for books because they pay not only the price that you'd normally pay in the shop, because lending libraries, they cost into it the price of lending and the different pricing schemes. I did once publish before we had databases to something, and it was published by a librarian publisher, and I got at one price to collectors who were individual collectors, which was like a retail price. Any library or museum that wanted a copy of this, they actually had to order to him. And I know definitely that the price was way different by going retail, but they were obliged because their libraries extra, because the purpose of the product for them is for it to be seen by a lot of people and lent out to people or constant reference. So it's the same thing, but a different value was put on it, depending on who wanted it and for what.
Right. Well, your library and for all freebies, really, they're a promotional tool. I think everybody that makes freebies is making them to promote something, their grid or their work or their material. And authors do that too. We give away things for free. We give away books for free. And it is hard to make people understand that just because it's free doesn't mean there's not a copyright, and that doesn't mean that I gave it away for free, that you can post the whole thing on your website for everybody to read.
Yeah.
And take my name off.
Yeah.
Which has happened.
It's sadly a sign of the internet age. I mean, I think this goes far beyond virtual worlds. I mean, the internet was built for sharing, and it wasn't built for commercial delivery. And although it is used that way now and being rapidly taken use, it's all the security protocols and things we see coming in to control this are simply, systems built on top of the internet. And the internet itself was never designed to prevent copying. It was there for sharing. So it's a legacy we've got, but of course, people unfortunately are exploiting that for commercial gain, as well as for legitimate commercial uses, of course, if there is any such thing. I'm conscious of the time. I knew that we'd end up tracking out. The final thing, and I'm going to kind of keep it quite short. I was talking to you earlier on, Nara, about what I've been building here. I've recently, I was south of Metaworld Broadcasting here. I've got a private estate called Malbone's Estate, and this week I'm very excited because I've now got two regions come up adjacent. I've got Metaworld Spaces, which is actually here has sort of ready-made environments in microcosm, as it were, that are suitable for filming interview shows and things on. The idea is people can come here, use it freely, look around for call it, and use it. And although the two southern is my sort of playground, then I'm winding in links. In other words, bits of my estates can also be sets, but also I'm developing a whole idea for an interactive story.
Right. I remember you mentioned that. So is it like fiction?
Well, yeah, excuse me, everybody. We're going to spend the last tiny bit of this show promoting me. I'm intended to do, but there is a purpose to this too, because teams are good things. So I am looking for collaborators. In fact, just this week, I right now to a chap who's been on the show before, a guy called Joe Builder, who quite literally came over, and he said, "Oh, I'll pop over and help you." And I was sitting there looking at the map from an aerial position. That's him working, awestruck, completely awestruck, manipulated by terrain and the prims and everything else to create something that I wanted, and he just did it. If I tried to do that myself, if he did it properly, which as opposed to my experiments, and secondly, it would have taken me a whole week to get as far as he got in a couple of hours. So to Joe Builder there. Right on, Joe. Thank you very much. However, collaboration is very much part of it. So what I find with the sets here built at Metaworld, I might have a small, as I do, just in the back lots here, you might go through a rather magical path with mushrooms and stuff, and you end up in a baby forest. But there's like a huntsman's cottage behind it, and then there's some wood, cut tree stumps that you can sit on, and there's a little fire that burns. So you could plunk yourself there, or on the sea.
So it's a fantasy story, or?
No. This is a bit more complex. This is in actually Batloss. You could plonk yourself there and film a scene where you've got people talking about, the fire on the log stumps, or you could just shift over a couple of yards and people sitting outside the cabin. But there's no complete build there. It's just like a film set. There's nothing extensive. So my first idea is that I pipe it into these builds so that if somebody settles in the forest area, I'm not giving them a whole forest, but I may be able to put hypergates in there that will take them to whole forest regions. And they can, if they want to do a more expansive film or show actually in a real forest, or a real version, catch my drift, they could then follow the hypergrid, which won't be mine. It won't be anything to do with me. It will simply be locations I've chosen that I think extend that environment. But what the stuff I'm doing for myself is a bit like this, but I keep loving to caves and caverns and hidden areas and things like that. So I came up with this idea of a quest. And, there are treasure chests discreetly hidden all around the regions and the builds. And the quest ultimately, you don't need to find them in any particular order. But if they discover the follow routes and stuff. Now, some of these chests might just have clues in them to the next location. Prizes like you get in a hunt. But what you will get at intervals is a chapter of a backstory. which I'm making up as I go along. I have to. Basically, it's like I actually said to somebody that a couple of cases in the past I was working with comic books, and a wonderful new aspiring artist would come in, and they deliver, lovely painted panels or something of a comic strip, and you drooled at it. But there'll be no word balloons. There'll be no story. There wouldn't any be even a narrative. They've basically done a whole lot of paintings to show off their art without actually creating a tangible narrative to go with them. And there were a couple of occasions where I was able to images and look at them and look into them and work out a story and then do a scripting operation in reverse, if you see what I mean. I'd immerse myself in the images, and then I'd build the fantasy from the immersion, then I'd write the story into it.
That's kind of how I work.
Yeah, right, okay. Well, I'm finding it's the same with the virtual creating environments that for lots of the time are just little mini environments that I like, and mini mazes, puzzles and things to get everybody confused. The more devious I can be, the better, in my opinion, though a lot of people coming here, especially the camera view on some of my experiments. But I'm wandering around my own environment, and I'm getting a feel for it, and then I'm sort of working on the idea of creating the backstories from that. It's a Bermuda Triangle thing, where obviously different things from different points in time and space, well, mostly time, have somehow coalesced in an area. And, it's a matter of working out a narrative that will give meaning to that. Also, it's I'm trying to work it so that each of these chapters, when you find them, will be non-linear. In other words, if you find them all, there would be a story, but it can be read. The chapters could be well, there probably will be a linear, but you could almost read them in a non-linear fashion. So depending on the chapter, which might contain clues that are in a later chapter, it might also contain clues to look and go next. Although if you misfire and end up in another chapter, that won't hurt either. You'll just get information from another chapter. Are you with me? Am I getting?
It sounds a lot like an alternate reality game, and that's pretty well how they work. They leave clues all over the place, and you enter the game by falling through a rabbit hole and getting the first little piece of story, and then your job is to find other pieces of story and put it all together so it makes sense. And that sounds a lot like what you're doing.
Yeah, it has similarities there, because I'm not writing a novella and then visualizing it. I'm doing it, completely backwards. I thought by mixing the idea of discovering chapters, maybe eventually extending chapters hidden on other grids that you have to hypergate from one place to another to pick them up.
That's exactly what we did with our Hypergrid Stories project. It was about a year ago. We had different scenes hidden on different grids, and you would hop between them to get the different pieces of the story.
And there was the one that you exhibited, wasn't there? Was it this year at OSCC or the one before?
Oh yeah, OSCC is it's one region with like 8 different levels, and on each level is a different story.
Yeah.
What we're working on right now is something like what you're doing. We have little scenes inside a holodeck. And so you can change through just like you would chapters of a book, but they're just different short stories by each of us. And so you click the holodeck to res the story and the scene and walk through it.
Right. Was that the holodeck thing you were mentioning? That was the other thing I've forgotten to ask.
It sounds like that would be very useful to you, because you're talking about making sets and having separate scenes, and you don't want like a scene of a city next to a scene of a forest. And so you can just click the holodeck and res the different scenes that you want. And you don't need to fill a whole region. You just need enough of a scene to set a mood.
Yeah. The environment Joe Builder did for me may end up being used like that. I think it's enough that it could have an ever-changing holodeck-generated central environment. But that's down the road. So really, you are because one of the things Otaro is sending me is time, but we always overrun a bit. So in telling you what I just did, do you see these environments being used in those sort of ways, not only just for the interactive storytelling on their say, an individual grid, but empowering the hypergrid and the concept of the hypergrid by including grids in the interactivity and things like plot revelations, maybe planting aspects of a story with other regions where you've come to where they can come back, teleport back or whatever. Do you see
that was our
goal
originally to build community between the different grids, because there's a lot of conflict between grids, and so we were hoping that we could use the stories and plant them between different grids to get people thinking about how they can, as a community, come together and create art together as a team.
And have you been successful, do you think? I mean, I know Nara's grid has been very successful. It's one of the people's favorite grids, because it's got that literary bent and everything else. It's definitely a theme grid. But would you say that, do you think that aspect of what you've tried to do has been... I
think I'm seeing a lot more storytelling pop up around. I see it here with you. I see it. There's not Naras everywhere. People are taking NPCs and creating characters. And that was just my first clone was a not Nara, because I had about 3 or 4 of them. And when I wanted to be able to tell the ones that were me when I looked at the screen. So now they're everywhere. And it's good to see that. It's good to see so much storytelling happening inside these worlds. They used to be just beautiful still lives, but now they're turning into stories, and that's exciting. And I think it'll bring people back and forth across the grids and using the hypergrid more.
I certainly think it's a big future for NPCs. And I didn't mention it, but I mean, obviously these micro-environments could very well be, some of them could be inhabited by NPCs that give out clues, or performing actions that are clues in them, are parts of the story in themselves. But it's the world is open with a lot of this stuff, isn't it? I think there's a big future for NPCs. I kept on getting reports of lag, and they were sort of Butch was looking into it here and there. And there were a few scripts running and things, but in fact, those NPCs are actually, the modern ones, especially as opposed to the dance balls, the old ones.
Yeah, they don't. They're no lag.
They're no lag at all, apparently. Butch was saying, "Oh, don't worry about the NPCs."
Not if they're sitting on an animation. If they're roaming around your region, like when you set them up. No problem.
Yeah, it's just a running in a fake avatar. Well, I know it looks like the real thing, but it's very lightweight, so it's great. Okay, well, time has run out. I'm hoping to have got a bigger conversation on storytelling techniques and things, and also I was going to have to think about ethics and stuff. I would actually ask a final question before the roundup rounds, and that is, how do each of you feel about the idea that I don't know who trusted persons are? I have no idea whether I want to be involved or who might be. But the idea that maybe via OpenSim or whatever, or there's no owner manager, of course, but that there was some kind of little association of say like trusted operators, be it grid owners or just tech people, who like form a little like ethics watchdog to sort of keep an eye on activity. Now we're getting so many grids opening and we don't know what all the motives are. They all say, oh, hypergrid connect and blah, blah, blah. To actually look out for what seem to be, operations that are deliberately trying to violate terms of service and things. Do you think that would be a good idea or even practical?
We already have laws for that.
Oh, yes, but I'm thinking of something more our particular environment rather than the state of law as it exists. Just to protect the hypergrid and promote it, so we don't want operators who might be going to do it damage.
Well, there's really nothing we can do. We can't. I mean, only their copyright owners can file DMCA notices. So we can tell the copyright owners that there's infringement going on and give them a heads up.
Yeah.
But they're the ones who have to file the notices. I personally do not want to be the policeman of the hypergrid.
No, neither do I.
It'll be a thankless job. Everybody will hate you. Nobody will appreciate you doing this, and you'll get burned out really quickly. I'm not, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can conceive of, but I value the independence and being what I think is a very good moderator in the middle of things and putting people together. Like I want this to be taking sides and things like that. But it's just, I'm putting it out there. That's a last minute question for your thoughts. Any thoughts, Nara?
Kind of think the less rules we have, the better.
Yeah.
We already have enough rules, I think, so I don't know that a policing agency would be welcome.
Yeah, it's I should point out, an ethics committee is not actually what you'd call a police agency, although it, so I think
True.
An ethics thing for professional society once, and believe it or not.
Do you think we kind of do that ourselves already with like the G+ groups? When something is not kosher, we all kind of talk about it there, and that tends to put an end to it.
Yeah, that's the case. Yeah, and it's very dodgy too. I got a secret story. I have to tell you. I wrote the ethics code for professional society, with a couple of collaborators. I was very young. It was a comic strip illustrators society, and believe it or not, within 2 years, I kicked out of the society and off the committee for breaching my own ethics code. It's a go figure, you don't always get the mileage you want out of these things. Because they're guidelines, and then of course everybody comes along and guidelines interpret them differently. And so I said, no, I didn't plagiarize, the reputation of the society at all. It's the thought, and they say, oh no. I don't know. It's just a question I put now there. Okay, we'll get a wrap. So what I'd like to do is just go around each of you individually to anything you so far that I missed when I introduced or whatever, or anything that's exciting happened last week or immediately coming up. And as our special guest today, I'll start with you, Noah.
Okay, the first Wednesday in May, Safari is going to be dropping over, and we're doing a 90-minute workshop with them on using the holodeck and the new NPC tools. So if you're around and can be free, it's what is it?
It's
grid time.
It's noon Pacific time on Wednesdays, and Pace has actually resorted to the clubhouse on OS Grid. Yes.
Right.
I think there's some problems on Franco Grid. Make it easier for them to go back. Now OS Grid is back to use that. So I think I'm pretty sure it's called Teravis Plaza on OS Grid. TERV. TERAVUS space Plaza with a Z, and so that's noon time on Wednesdays. Yeah, always a good hangout if you can free up that time. It's always a great adventure, isn't it? Anything else now?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Well, wonderful to have you here, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah, see, great. Maria, closing thoughts.
While we were talking, I finally hit the post on an article by one of our freelancers, photo tool tips for Firestorm. Oh. So the guy who's been doing our Hyperica snapshots has discovered photo tools. And I haven't written anything about photo tools before because I didn't know how to use them. So I figured maybe other people could use some tips for photo tools as well and didn't know they existed. So I just read an article about
it. Yeah. I'm going to pitch myself again very quick. Is it Tyler, your assistant? Or
Tyler Brabo. Yes.
Because the actual region of Metaworld Broadcasting, let alone Melbourne, all this fun stuff happening on it, aren't listed in Iberica. I think they should be. I force
Okay.
you. I think you should force you to list them in return for me listing you. Listing you. I mean, I don't know what I mean, but anyway, I thought I'd point that out. You could send them
I
over.
just gave him today. I just gave him a list of 200 more regions to add to Hyperion.
Yeah, I know. The poor guy. Well, he's doing a good job. I mean, he's coughing up a dozen a day. So this is a direct. It's a directory that's. It's just not coming in my direction at the moment. Anyway, great stuff. Okay, Tara, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Oh, closing thoughts. Gosh, I actually managed to get myself unmuted in time this time. Since I have several things to mute and turn off when I'm going back and forth and running cameras. Well, I guess my only other item is I tend to be around Second Life more than OpenSim, and neither one all that much. But I'm a longtime resident of the Chobo community, and when we went through a restructuring here, so a few years back, and moved from a community-owned land base to mostly individually owned with some community land still. There was kind of some energy kind of escaped in the process, which was not a big surprise. But anyway, this past week I've acquired a new tenant in one of my commercial buildings. And some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Agile Bill Krebs, who does a lot of work around Agile training. So he's picked up some space for me. So, and it's I think it's kind of a harbinger that certainly Second Life and the Chobo community, while not as frisky as it was in its kind of its heyday, still has activity going on and people showing up. So. That's it for me.
Okay, and Chobo's legacy definitely lives on. But my Melbourne's estate region is still paved with the paved Chobo sidewalk after all these years. It's like a trademark sidewalk. It was originally over on Reaction Grid. Chobo there, which was attached to me, and it's endured. It's come over here, and it's now traveling regions. So that Chobo sidewalk is such a mark. You know, if I've been to Chobo, can't mistake it. And when you see it, you know, we're the only ones that got it. You know, it's like that. I don't know, token link to where it all started. So yeah.
Well, certainly, you know, when we adopted the Chobo sidewalk texture, and it got applied to the sidewalks throughout Chobo, it served as a really simple but incredibly effective way to tie a virtual community spatially together. And you know, there's still some odd bits of it that are well outside Chobo, but you know, they are also still areas that do have a connection with Chobo. So with the community. So you know, that's just kind of one of those little tips. If you have an area that you know is shared space by multiple people who get together and cooperate, one way to make an easily recognizable visual cue is to pick a texture and use it for sidewalks or paving or paths and that sort of thing.
Just creates a sort of commonality. Follow the yellow brick road, but in our case, follow the Chobo sidewalk.
The red brick road.
The red brick road, indeed. Yes. Okay, that's great. Now we are running. Well, we always run over time, but we're now quarter of an hour, so we need to go with the wrap. Otherwise, we end up with big files and all sorts of things, and people here fall asleep on. Well, not quite, but you get the idea. So we will be back next week. Actually, the first Saturday of the month, so we will be doing our monthly show from good old Second Life. In fact, guess where? Chilbo, yes, that's our Second Life Studios are, and ye old original studios, ye original virtual world, ye old original aging Second Life. Sorry, didn't mean that. That's where we'll be next week. I'm not quite sure who we'll have with me. Hopefully, we'll have Honor Macmillan's, which is some various regulars from over there, since we're not there that often these days. And the week after that, we'll be on Great Canadian Grid, where I'll have a very special guest in the form of Krista Lopez. December will also be with us. So until then, I'd just like to thank all again. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Nara.
You're welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Mal, for having me. Always a pleasure.
And thank you, as always, to Tara.
You're most welcome.
And special thanks to James, who has also been hanging on here, doing a test recording with us, and now he knows what it involves. He's probably going to run a mile on that. But thanks to James. With that, I wish you a very good morning. Or indeed a very good afternoon, or possibly a very good evening, but more importantly, in my case at least, a good tomorrow, depending on wherever you are. And we'll be back very soon indeed.